Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Mashin Sentai Kiramager episode 20. So, kind of like last week, this was another classic Sentai trope, and kind of a trope of a lot of shows that involve any kind of supernatural or sciencey thing that can do this, which is an episode where two characters become stuck together. And I don't think like last week it was necessarily a more innovative take on it, but it was definitely refreshing and enjoyable, I thought. I think that's been kind of a nice carryover from last week's, is that it's kind of an episode that's been done a lot, but I didn't feel like I was bored or rolling my eyes at doing yet another one of these episodes that ended up being the same. I mean, there's a lot about it that other shows have done in terms of what the purpose of it was, but I found it to be entertaining. So we brought back this girl from the pilot episode that was making fun of Juru's drawings. I don't remember if she's been in the series since. Honestly, I was having a hard time remembering if we had hardly any scenes of Juru in school. But we brought her back. She's still giving Juru crap over his drawings, and she's like, "You better not make me look like a monster." I'm like, "Well, you kind of look like a goblin, like a little bit, like the ears," and she's kind of like... So, like, I don't know. He's still giving him trouble for it, and then he gets called away to a monster situation, and the other rangers are already there, and the monster situation is the monster that's pulling people together with glue, and there's all kinds of jokes that can be had with this, but I'm gonna steer clear from it, hopefully. Fighting that, Juru shows up, and then the girl shows up, and he's like, "Oh no, I know her from school," and then of course, you know, they end up getting stuck together. And so back at the base, they're all trying, I don't know why I said that, so back at the base, why I say it's so weird like that? Slap at the base! They're trying to figure out what to do, and everyone's demorphed but Juru because of his identity, and she's recognizing all of them for being kind of famous and notable. And it's kind of weird though because they're like, okay, we gotta keep this a secret, but is it just me? I mean, I feel like just episodes ago, the Kiramagers don't seem to care about their secret identity all that much. Like in this one, it seemed like, obviously with her, they didn't care about their identities as much, but it also seemed like they told her they didn't want it to get out. Sentai's really weird with secret identities. Like, they don't really give a fork in most cases, but I felt like in this case it seemed weird. But obviously Juru was staying morphed, and I assumed that for most of the episode there might be fun antics with trying to hide his identity and being in suit and stuff like that. And then as soon as Silver walked in, I'm like, nope, he's gonna say his name. I can feel it. I don't think they're gonna stop him in time. Maybe they'll stop him in time. And then he's like, "Oh, Juru, you have a girlfriend." I was like, yep, knew it. So that was pretty funny, because they're all like jumping through hoops to be like, "Oh yeah, he has to keep his helmet on because can't breathe the air here." And then all of a sudden Silver walks in and blows the identity, and she's shocked to find out that it's Juru. But then they have to go back to school for whatever reason. I mean, I guess just school. And so she dresses him up in a disguise that like obviously ends up not working, and they're wondering why they're together. And she's like, "Oh, it's because we're working on a drawing together," or whatever, and then she snaps at the teacher. And there's this whole bit at the beginning of the episode about how basically she's the bee from Apartment 23, but she acts like she's nice in front of the teacher, but then the teacher sees the bee from Apartment 23. So then later during the battle, when they're trying to fight, she's like really self-conscious about the fact that the teacher saw her true colors, but then Juru gives her a nice speech about like, "Well, you know, you're really sneaky and that's a good thing." Like, that's really simplified it, but he basically gave her a pep talk of like, who you really are is good. You don't necessarily need to put on a facade. You're kind of smart about this stuff. And then that endears them to each other, or her to him at least, and they're, you know, bonded literally and figuratively, and they do a transformation sequence together? Because she helps them transform, and then they do a roll call, like a roll call of one person. The two shall become one. That was never referring to marriage. It was referring to a Sentai coupling trope. But they fight together. It's really entertaining. Like, I like that in Kiramager. I feel like we've gotten a handful of like unique, funny roll calls for various situations. Like just last week with the machines being in them. That sounded, you know. And then this week with the two of them together, and we get that, and then they're fighting together and distracting the monster, while the other rangers essentially take all the stuff he's been gluing together and make it into a giant hammer, and they're like, "You want me to bring the hammer down?" And then they hammer him. You know, like, not like that, guys. Out of the gutter. And then we have the mecha battle, and she's obviously still in the cockpit because, not still, like, she hasn't been the whole episode, but because they're still attached to each other. And then everyone's wondering, guys, do the 6 Ranger mecha and the main mecha combine? Yes, we saw it in this episode. Just put them back to back. Boom, roasted. So they go back to back, they defeat him, and then Juru's like, "Oh no, it still didn't decouple us," but it's just because she's holding his hand because she likes him. And then at the end we show that they are now friends and they have a bit of a bond going. Like, figuratively this time, and not both figuratively and literally. I thought this was a very entertaining episode, though. Like, I wasn't a fan of this girl from the first episode, just kind of being a Beta-Juru, but I really was endeared to her by the end of it. I liked their little dynamic. I thought there was some sweet moments. I thought there was some funny moments. It made for an all-around entertaining episode. I thought it was another case of showcasing Drew's character by him bringing out the best in people, and this time it wasn't somebody from his team, and he's not just a Sentai Red that just shouts nonsense words into people's faces. Like, he actually has good insight into it, and so I really liked that. There were some funny parts with the fight scenes and with the back-to-back fight scenes and some creative thinking. It didn't really necessarily advance the plot or characters in too huge of a way, but it was really nice and entertaining, and I enjoyed it a lot. But what did you guys think of this episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell for notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.